Ayurveda is an ancient Hindu practice for a holistic way of living and holistic medicine. I tried it for a week. These are my results.
This is your life, no one else has gotta live it. This is your fight that only you can win.
Hello everyone and welcome to Freedom Friday, where you learn how to free yourself and live your dreams. I'm Darienne, your certified spiritual rock star. And if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that bell for notifications if you want to receive videos just like this one every single week. Also, if you'd like to sign up for my Empire updates, I am giving away a free guided meditation to help you raise your vibrations. You can do so right here or down in the link in the description. So, most of you know, the people that have been following me for a while, know that I am subscribed to the Goddess Provisions box. Last month, the box theme was Ayurveda, which if you guys are familiar with Deepak Chopra, if you go to his website, he actually sells a lot of Ayurvedic things. And it's basically just this holistic way of living for optimal health. Of course, a lot of you probably already heard of it. If you haven't already heard of it, you know, it's something that I looked into many moons ago and just now received this book in my Goddess Provisions box. So I figured, why not try it in a more systematic way and see if it really helps me, see if I notice any changes, and just check it out. I got this book in the Goddess Provisions box, and I have to tell you, this is the Idiot's Guide, Ayurveda. I don't really like the Idiot's Guide term, but the foreword is actually by Deepak Chopra. This particular book is by Sahara Rose Katabi. She's a beautiful woman. There's a nice little picture of her in the back. And what I loved about this book is for people who like, these types of books are for people like, just give me the gist and like, let me just start this. Okay. So, you know, for that purpose, this gave me the ability to just start using the Ayurvedic practices right away. And it's been just under a week that I've been attempting to design my life according to my dosha. The basic Ayurvedic principles are that there are 3 types of what's called doshas. Now, each person in the world has these 3 types of doshas, but most of us have a primary, a secondary, and then one that is not really as strong. The 3 doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And so you can be like a Vata body or even a Vata Kapha body with a little bit of a Kapha Pitta mindset. And, you know, to my understanding, you can have all of these different, like a little mixture. But when I started to read it and I started to read what the Vatas are, I was like, holy smokes, this is me. So the Vata dosha is somebody who's naturally very thin. That's me. We tend to forget to eat. That's me. We tend to be very creative. That's me. Very light. You know, we just have the energy of lightness. And so when I started to read this, I was like, oh my God, it's like they know me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep going with this. And then I was a little bit of a mix of like Kapha as well, because I can tend to kind of like lay around a lot, not really be very mobile, and of course I'm prone to depression, which you guys know if you've been following me for a while, because I've suffered with depression for a long time. So, you know, it's good to have this kind of insight. So what I did was I took the suggestions that they gave for how to live your daily life, and I started to implement them into my practice. So here's what I did. I loved this concept that they suggested in the book, that Sahara suggested in the book, of waking up with the sun and going to sleep with the sun, because the doshas also describe different parts of the day. So in the beginning of the day and the end of the day is when we're sort of calming down. That's when we're kind of getting into self-care, or when we're just starting to wake up. We're not really at our heightened energy just yet, and it's time to kind of like wake us up or wind us down during those parts of the day. And so I love this concept. So what I've been doing is, as the book says, I've been attempting to wake up with the sunrise, which today I woke up at 9, so that didn't really work so well. But I did the other day, yesterday I woke up at 6:45, which was about the time just after the sun rose. That is a little bit more difficult. I think it's gonna take time. Of course, it's only been a week. I think it's gonna take time to really get into the swing of things and get my body into the swing of things. So I woke up with the sun, and I would pretty much get up right away, where usually I'm laying in bed for about an hour or two before I get up. So I pretty much got up right away, and I would brush my teeth, wash my face, scrape my tongue, as they suggest, because there's all these toxins and bacteria that stays on your tongue, especially from overnight. And that's the first part of digestion, is in your tongue. Your saliva starts to break down food. And then I would do oil pulling. They suggested doing oil pulling with sesame oil for my dosha, but I had coconut oil. So here's the thing is, like, I've already done oil pulling before. I've already scraped my tongue. I've already done the dry brushing that they suggest. It's stuff that I've already done. I just didn't have it, this really like regiment of it. And so it wasn't that difficult for me to just put it into a regiment. So I want to point out that, like, I wouldn't suggest, and they even tell you in the book, to just kind of start, like, make one shift a week. For me, it was easy to be able, it just felt natural for me to be able to just shift into this way of really just regimenting things I'm already doing, right? So I'm already doing self-care. I'm already meditating every day. I'm already doing many of these things. It helps for me, they suggest turning all of your technology off a couple hours before you sleep. And even though my whole business is online, it can be difficult for me to shut off. But what I teach online is about thriving and living a joyful life and being at one with your true self. And so that made it easier for me. I also want to point out that I have been setting the intention and asking for Source to give me a regimen that feels good to me. And so I know for a fact that I manifested this. And so for me to so easily pick up this book and so easily want to read it, just know if something is that easy for you and you've been asking for, I'm really looking for a regimen, I'm really looking for, a way to just feel better. I had a child 2 years ago. Most of you know that. And so it was difficult for me to have any sort of regimen, when you first have a baby. And so now I'm finally like, okay, I want to get back into a regimen. I want to be doing things that honor my body. I want to be exercising more, but I want to do it when it feels good, not because I think it's what I'm supposed to be doing, if that makes sense. So this concept of like going with the cycles of the earth and moving with the energy of Gaia was such a beautiful thing for me. And I was like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. So it really wasn't difficult. So I would be doing that. I would wake up, I would wash my face, brush my teeth, scrape my tongue, do oil pulling. I've been doing that every day this week. Then while I was doing the oil pulling, usually Meadow wouldn't even be awake if I wake up early enough. There was one day where I was up, she woke up at 10 and I woke up at 6:45. So I had over 3 hours. I was kind of like twiddling my thumbs. I was like, okay, what do I do now? That was another thing that was like one of the results of doing these Ayurvedic practices is like, I had so much time in the day that I was like, okay, so what do we do now? So I would do that. Then I would go downstairs. I would make myself a cup of tea, as I do every morning, not anything new. And I would go sit down and I would meditate. Now, I found it because I changed my sleep schedule and because I was waking up with the sun, I actually had more vata energy, and that kind of subsided my kapha energy, which made it, now the vata, our brains tend to be like this all the time, so we find it a little bit more difficult to meditate. So maybe that's why I did find it a little bit more difficult to meditate this week, which again is just going to take me some shifting, you know. So, and then I would do some yoga. Now, the part that confused me a little bit, that it's going to take me some time to work out, and I think I'm going to go on to Deepak Chopra's website because I'm pretty sure they have a test to figure out your doshas that's a little bit more in depth than the one in this book. Just because I think that there is still that kapha part of me where they were suggesting, you know, they suggest for a vata to exercise in the afternoon, whereas they suggest a kapha to exercise in the morning. So, you know, there's some things I still need to work out. But also, they suggest your largest meal being lunch, because the middle of the day is when the sun is at its highest, our energy is at its highest, and it's easiest for us to, so that's the pitta part of the day, and I'll explain all three of the doshas in a moment. But that's the easiest part of the day to digest. They also suggest that, not suggest, they strongly beat it into your head that your digestion is the core of everything. It's the core of your body's health, and it's the core of your emotional health. It's the core of spiritual health. I mean, they tell you that your digestion is the core of every part of you, and you living as a balanced human and spirit and body and all of that, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of it. The three doshas are, like I said, the vata is the one that is generally really thin. Their brain tends to be going like this. They tend to be more intuitive, more creative, more tuned into their creativity. The pittas are the ones that are a little bit more, or a lot more, the more athletic ones, the ones that are, I would call that more like feminine energy and masculine energy. To me, it seems a little bit more like that, where things are very regimented. Things, you know, everything is planned out. You know, my sister, absolute pitta, right? And I'm like absolute vata, where I'm just like, okay. And then the kaphas can tend to be a little bit more, not necessarily overweight, but are prone to being overweight, prone to depression, but they're also big givers, right? They're very nurturing, very much heart-centered individuals. When I think of like an Italian grandmama, that's definitely a kapha, the curvaceous, nurturing woman. Of course, it's not always a woman. It could be anything, but just the energy of that. And so what I loved most about the eating part and the diets that they suggest, which I have been trying the diets, it's very difficult, I think, for a vata, and just me in general, to really be super cognizant of what I eat, because then I end up not eating, and I'm like, it would just be better for me to eat. Like right now I'm hungry, and they suggest making the larger meals of your day being at lunchtime, but I was like, I just feel like I'm hungry or I'm full all day if I eat during lunch. And then what I've been doing this week is like not eating dinner. Like I get hungry again at like 8 o'clock at night, which is, they don't suggest eating to like it's 3 hours. They suggest you give 3 hours at least of no eating time before you go to bed. That's a little bit difficult for me, but what I love about it is they suggest you eat based off of energy. So the vatas are very light. We tend to be prone to dryness as well, which my skin isn't dry at all. I definitely have vata or kapha skin, but I always have dry lips. I always have like dry, not always, but I have dry eyes, cotton mouth. I'm always dehydrated. I'm drinking water right now. But since we're so light and dry, they suggest eating foods that are heavy and hydrating, right? So like adding more oils and warming, because we're also prone to being cold. So we want to, right now I'm drinking warm water with a lime in it. So they suggest, you know, balancing out the energy of your dosha with what you need. So I love this concept of like eating for the balancing of your energy rather than like calorie counting or is it organic? Of course you want it to be organic, but thinking about the energy of it, that's totally my language. So like for all of you empaths out there, that's your language as well. You speak energetically, right? So you understand things energetically, and it's a lot easier to be able to read food energetically and go, okay, is this going to be good for me? Is this what I need right now? Do I feel heavy? Do I feel dry? Do I feel this? And I definitely would suggest looking into what these doshas are and understanding them a little bit better. But that's basically the concept of it. Now, they also suggest at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, it's like don't touch your technology before like 10 o'clock in the morning, which I have not been doing. I haven't been touching my phone before 10, and to shut your technology down. They suggest about an hour to 2 hours before you go to sleep, but I am noticing that I might need more than that. And it's interesting because I'm on my computer all the time, but I didn't notice until I did this, until I really was aware of like what energies are happening when and what's going on, and tuning myself to the day and the hours of the day. It gave me the ability to see what was really bothering me, and I noticed two things. Technology, it creates this tenseness in my body. Even if I try to, and I become like completely asleep while I'm on the computer. I like turn into this robot, right? And then also caffeine. So I was realizing during the afternoon is I need this like afternoon pickup, and I had a chai tea latte yesterday afternoon and I could not sleep. And there was another day where I had another latte a couple days ago, and again, I could not sleep. Like I was up until probably around midnight when they suggest going to sleep at 10 and being actually asleep by 10 o'clock. Which that created a little bit of stress for me because I actually work at night. So it's gonna take me some time to get into the swing of things. Honestly, if you're starting any new regimen, any new lifestyle change, don't do anything that's gonna cause you stress. That I would definitely suggest. Some things did cause me a little bit of stress and I was just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. So, because that's the point. The whole point of changing a regimen is to have a less stress, not to create more stress. So if it's something you're gonna start doing, definitely do what feels good to you. There was something that she said in there. She said she suggests going food shopping twice a week and buying the food that you're just gonna eat like that day or for the next day or two, and not make any leftovers and all of that, because you don't get all the nutrients from the foods. Okay, that's great. That's all fine and dandy. She's obviously not a single mom with 2 kids. and like, no shame, you know what I mean? But if you're a single mom with 2 kids or more, or like you just don't, it's just not possible for you to like go, and I hate grocery shopping. So I do most of my grocery shopping online and I have it delivered to my house. And so it's like, I'm not gonna do something, like why would I go to the grocery store twice a week when I hate it already? Do you know what I mean? So just because she suggests it, it's like right now, if that doesn't feel good to me, maybe sometime in the future that will feel good to me. Maybe I'll find a market that I just freaking fall in love with and I'll be like, yes, I love going grocery shopping. I love buying food, but like, I'm not there right now. That's totally fine. It's not a time to like judge myself and be like, why am I not as good as this Ayurvedic book tells me to be, or whatever diet or lifestyle change that anybody suggests to you. Don't do stuff that feels bad to you, because that's going to be counterintuitive. It's going to be counterproductive. It is going to work against you. So as soon as you feel like that resistance, which is what I was feeling, I was like, okay, I need to switch it up. The other thing is that the spiritual aspect of Ayurveda did not get mentioned until the very end of this book. So I had already started the Ayurvedic practice, and then I was feeling very too concerned with the physical, which doesn't work for me. Like I am totally connected to source many times throughout the day. And so for me to focus solely on my body and my sleep and the physical world, like that's all fine and dandy, but for me not to have the spiritual aspect of it, it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel like me, to be honest. And so she did get to the very end of the book, and we started to talk about spirituality, which I loved the concepts of spirituality. So they just like they have 3 doshas, the 3 doshas are also connected to these 3 aspects of your spiritual self. I can't remember the exact names of them, but they were connected to the doshas. So the kapha, the sort of spiritual personality person at their highest that's related to the kapha energy would be someone that's very grounded and present. Someone that lives from their heart center, right? And of course, there are moments like right now, as I talk about this, I can feel myself getting into the moment. I can feel myself coming from my heart center. There's very often many videos of mine that you will watch where I'm here, I'm present. Lots of spiritual teachers will be here, present. Of course, that is through their own intention and through their choice to be here and present, right? Somebody like, Wayne Dyer was very here, present, living from his heart center, right? Of course, we're not all like that all the time, but those moments of being in that energy, right? So the other energy is the related to Vata energy, which I now remember they call prana, which we're all familiar with what prana is. Not all of us, but we hear this word in the Hindu traditions often, or if you're doing yoga or whatever, you hear prana. So prana is that life force energy. Prana is somebody who's very intuitive, creative. I think I would relate more to that, although I feel like when I'm at my highest self, I am expressing of all 3 of these, right? When I'm like totally tuned in, tapped and turned on, I'm expressing all 3 of these. But very naturally, without ever thinking, I'm super intuitive and I'm super creative, right? So somebody that's very intuitive and creative. And then the other one, which again, I can't remember the name, it's like Treja or something. The other one is connected to the Pitta dosha, which is driven, passionate, courageous, right? So it really reminds me of the one that's connected to the Vata energy being very feminine, right? The divine feminine, creative, right? They're in the flow with the universe, going with the flow, very light, airy. And then the other one, which is connected to the Pitta energy, feels very divine masculine, driven, clear, go-getter, gonna get what I want, have the courage to do it, passionate, right? That drive, that fire and air, right? And then the kapha energy to me feels like the marriage of the 2, right? So where it's like the marriage of the 2 in the human body, where it's like you're present, you're here. And of course, these are just my own words, my own description of it, but it's like that concept of being present here, living from your heart center. But really to be the expression of all 3 of those is kind of like what we all want to be. And so I loved hearing about that because I could sit in meditation and just think about those 3 things. What does it feel like to be fully present, living from my heart center, being a nurturer, loving the world, being appreciative of everything around me? What does it feel like to be passionate, courageous, thrilled, fulfilled? What does it feel like to be creative, creating in the flow with the universe, and highly intuitive? All of those feels like the most balanced spirit and human essence, right? It feels like marrying the self. It feels like both the human and spirit selves coming together as one. And that's a beautiful place to be. So I love that as part of the Ayurvedic principles. But of course, this book at least, still really was hard pressed about how your digestion is the core of all of that. I don't know about all of that. I mean, I don't know enough about the Ayurvedic principles to really know that for sure. But if it's something that you want to look into, I would definitely suggest it. I mean, overall, I feel better. My body is still craving nutrients that I'm not getting at the proper time of the day. So I definitely am going to intuitively eat and I'm probably not going to be so hard pressed about what they say I should be eating, because it just creates more confusion and more resistance for me. But like if I want to go eat a salad, they suggest me not eating salad because it's cold, but I'm like, if I want to eat a salad because I feel like that's going to give me the nutrients that I want, my belief system is going to trump any book that I read. So that's what's really important for you guys to understand. If you're changing diets, if you're starting a new regimen, you know, your belief system is going to be the determining factor of your results. Okay? So you want to work with your belief system. Also, I want to point out, if this is something that you're listening to me and feeling like, oh my God, I should try this and, you know, check it out. Again, I have been asking for months. I have been asking slightly again and again and again, and setting the intention to have a regimen, right? And I'm not one, I used to be, but nowadays I'm like, I don't want to just like dive into a regimen and then it'd be like a traumatic shock on my body and me just go crazy. I didn't want that. I wanted to just tweak my regimen a little bit, and come slightly into clarity. In that, I was asking, and I manifested this book, which was an easy read. It was easy for me to go, okay, I could take practices I've already been using, but were a little bit more scattered, and do them in a regimented thing. So also at the end of the day, they've been suggesting to sort of wind down. So I've also been doing dry brushing and oil self-massage, which is a beautiful practice, I think, to do for anybody. So it's gonna take me a little bit of time to get into the swing of this schedule, but I definitely already do feel better. I mean, I definitely think that like my breath feels better, my mouth feels better. I feel cleaner internally, if that makes sense. I'm sure that that does make sense to you. And just being that intentional. And I just really love this concept of working with the cycles of the day. It just makes things easier. It just makes things easier. It feels like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the way my body was designed to work. And it's really just forcing me to pay attention to myself and my body and my needs, and you know what works for me and what doesn't. So I think that at the end of the day, that is the biggest benefit that you can get from trying these Ayurvedic practices. You know, working on the physical, I don't think is as important. I do think it's important, but I don't think it's as important as working on your mental and emotional states, because the mind is where everything begins in this body, right? I mean, we've created everything from our mind, and anything I do, the results are determined by my belief system. So if you believe that something's bad for you and you do it, even though somebody tells you it's good for you, it's not going to be good for you, right? So, you know, just look into that stuff. I will leave some links down below. I'll leave a link for this book, and I will leave a link for Deepak Chopra's website so that you can look more into Ayurveda and Ayurvedic practices. If you are familiar with it, if you've tried it, if you've had success with it, definitely comment down below and let me know all about it. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and you would like to see more like it. And I will see you next week. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to share this video on social media. Also check me out on social media at Darienne Empire on Instagram and Facebook. And until next week, check out this video from the archive. It's a good one. Go watch. It's really good. Alrighty. Bye guys.